Once upon a time, in a small town called Umwoko, there lived a young girl named Chica. Chica was very beautiful. Her skin was smooth like chocolate. Her smile was bright like sunshine, and her eyes were shiny like stars. Many boys in the town wanted to be her friend, but Chica only liked one boy. His name was Ibuka. Ibuka was not rich. He did not wear nice clothes. He did not live in a big house. He worked in a small car shop where he helped fix old, broken cars. He was a mechanic's helper. Every day he got oil on his hands and clothes. But Chica liked him because he was kind. He always opened doors for her, carried her bag, and made her laugh with his funny jokes. Ibuka also liked to read books about cars and machines. He said, "One day, I will build my own car company. People will drive my cars all over Africa." Chica would smile and say, "Dream big, Ibuka." Chica and Ibuka walked to school together. After school, Ibuka would go to the car shop, and Chica would go home to help her mother. They talked on the phone every night. Chica would tell Ibuka about her day, and Ibuka would tell her about the cars he fixed. They were very close, but not everyone was happy about their love. Chica's friends laughed at her. They said, "Why are you dating a dirty boy who works with tools? He smells like grease." Chica would tell them, "He is smart, he is kind, he has a dream." But her friends only laughed more. They said, "Dreams cannot buy you a new dress or a nice phone." Chica tried to ignore them, but their words stayed in her heart. One day, Chica's mother found out about Ibuka. She was not happy. "Chica," she said, "you are too pretty for a poor boy. That boy has no money. He cannot take care of you." Chica said, "But Mama, he is good to me." Her mother shook her head. "Love is not enough. Love does not pay bills. One day you will understand." Chica felt sad. She wanted to follow her heart, but everyone around her said no. Then something happened. A man named Richard came to town. Richard was rich. He wore gold chains, drove a shiny black car, and gave money to people in church. He owned many shops and houses. One day, Richard saw Chica in the market and said, "You are the most beautiful girl I have ever seen." He started calling her every day. He sent her flowers, food, and new clothes. He even gave her a brand new phone. Chica was surprised. No boy had ever given her so many gifts. At first, she did not want to talk to Richard. She still liked Ibuka. But slowly, things began to change. Ibuka could not buy her anything. He still wore the same old shoes. He still took the bus. And he still worked long hours in the hot sun. When Chica asked him, "Why don't you get a better job?" Ibuka said, "I am learning. One day, I will start my own company. I just need more time." Chica felt tired of waiting. She started thinking, maybe Mama is right. Maybe love is not enough. One evening, Chica and Ibuka were sitting under a mango tree. The sky was orange and the birds were singing. Ibuka looked at Chica and said, "Chica, I know I am not rich now, but please wait for me. I am going to make you proud." Chica looked at him. She saw the oil on his shirt and the hole in his shoe. She thought about the shiny phone Richard gave her, the new dress in her closet, and the rich life he promised her. Then she laughed and said, "Ibuka, you will die under a broken car before you make me proud." Ibuka looked hurt. His eyes became wet. "You don't believe in me anymore?" he asked. Chica stood up. "I believed in you for too long," she said. "But dreams cannot feed me. I want more." Then she walked away, leaving Ibuka under the tree. That night, Chica blocked Ibuka's number. She stopped picking his calls. She started going out with Richard. She took pictures in nice hotels and shared them online. People said, "Wow, Chica is living the good life." And Chica smiled. She thought she had made the right choice. But Ibuka did not fight. He did not beg. he stayed quiet. Every day he went to the car shop. Every night he studied car designs and watched videos about engines. His friends told him, "Forget her. She does not deserve you." But Ibuka did not talk about Chika. He just said, "One day they will all see." 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. One day, a rich man came to the shop. His car had a strange noise. No one could fix it. Ibuka listened to the sound, opened the engine, and fixed it in 15 minutes. The man was shocked. "How did you do that?" he asked. Ibuka smiled and said, "I study a lot." The man asked more questions and found out Ibuka had no certificate but was very smart. He said, "Come to Lagos. I want to help you." Ibuka was scared. He had never left Umuoko. But he said yes. He sold his small things, packed his bag, and took a bus to Lagos. Chika heard the news and laughed. She told her friends, "He is running away because he failed. He will be back begging for money." But Ibuka was not running away. He was going to chase his dream. Ibuka sat in the big bus with his small bag on his lap. The road was long and bumpy, but he did not sleep. He looked out the window and thought about everything he left behind. He thought about his small bed, the old car shop, and the mango tree where Chika told him goodbye. He also thought about the rich man who said, "Come to Lagos. I want to help you." Ibuka was scared, but he was also ready. When the bus reached Lagos, it was night. There were many cars, big lights, and tall buildings. The air smelled different. Everything moved fast. The rich man, Mr. Hassan, came to pick him up in a black car. He smiled and said, "Welcome to a new life, my boy." He took Ibuka to a small room in a nice house. The bed was soft, the fan worked well, and there was food on the table. Ibuka said thank you many times. Mr. Hassan told him, "You will learn more about cars. You will go to a training school, and I will pay for everything." Ibuka wanted to cry, but he just smiled and said, "I will not disappoint you, sir." Every morning, Ibuka cleaned the floor, made his bed, and went to the car training school. He sat in front of the class. He asked many questions. The teachers liked him. He fixed every engine they gave him. After school, he went to a big garage to help the workers. He worked harder than everyone else. He stayed late. He read books. He watched videos about cars from Germany, America, and Japan. He started drawing his own car ideas in a notebook. One day, Mr. Hassan saw the drawings and said, "These are good. You have a gift." Ibuka said, "Thank you. One day, I want to build my own car company." Mr. Hassan laughed, but it was a good laugh. "Keep dreaming, my boy," he said. Back in Umoko, Chika was living in a big house with her new man, Richard. Richard gave her money, clothes, and gold earrings. Chika posted pictures every day on her phone. People said, "Wow, you are lucky." Chika smiled and said, "Yes, I made the right choice." Her mother was happy. She said, "I told you, love is not enough. Look at you now, rich and beautiful." Chika's friends came to visit and drink juice in her house. They talked about Ibuka and laughed. "Remember how he used to come with oily hands," one said. "Do you think he has eaten today?" another asked. Chika said he ran to Lagos. "I heard he is begging for jobs. Poor boy." But Chika did not know the truth. Ibuka was not begging. He was rising. After 1 year of training, he became one of the best students in the car school. The teachers gave him a special badge. Mr. Hassan introduced him to a big company that made car parts. They said, "We want to test your ideas." Ibuka showed them his drawings for a small car that could move fast and use very little fuel. They were surprised. One man said, "This can work in Africa. The roads are bad, but your car can handle it." They asked him to come work in their office. Ibuka started wearing clean shirts and using a computer. He still worked hard. He still remembered his dream. One day the company said, We want to send you to Dubai. You will learn more about car design. Ibuka could not believe it. He called Mr. Hassan and said, "Sir, they want to send me abroad." Mr. Hassan laughed with joy. "I told you, boy, you are going far." Ibuka flew on a plane for the first time. In Dubai, the buildings were tall like the sky. The roads were smooth and the cars looked like toys from the future. Ibuka joined a team that made electric cars. He learned how to build cars that use batteries instead of petrol. He met people from many countries. They liked his ideas. One day, a man said, "Why don't you start your own company in Africa? You know your roads and your people." Ibuka smiled and said, "That is my dream." After 2 years in Dubai, Ibuka came back to Nigeria. He had money in his bank, a big laptop, and many new ideas. He did not tell anyone in Umuoko that he was back. He stayed in Lagos and started a small company called E-Motion Motors. He used the little money he saved to rent a workshop. He hired 2 smart boys who helped him build the first car. It was small, strong, and used a battery. He drove it around Lagos and people stopped to look. A man from the government saw it and said, "This is good. Can you make more?" Soon, Ibuka's company began to grow. He hired more people. He got a bigger workshop. He started making cars for rich people who wanted to try new things. The governor of Lagos called him and said, "Young man, I want 10 of your cars." That day, Ibuka stood in front of the workshop and smiled. He remembered Chika and her words, "You will die under a broken car." He looked at the clean cars behind him and said, "No, I will build my future with these hands." But Ibuka did not show off. He did not post pictures. He still wore simple clothes. He still greeted people with respect. He sent money to his mother in the village. He gave scholarships to young boys who wanted to learn about cars. People in Lagos started calling him the Quiet Car King. They liked his work. He was in the news. But back in Umuoko, Chika did not know. She was still busy with her life. Richard's business was not doing well. He had lost some money, but he did not tell Chika. He still bought things on credit and smiled in public. Chika thought everything was fine. She said, "We are planning our wedding soon. It will be the biggest in town." One day Richard came home and said, "We need to plan the wedding. Let's make it big. I want all my friends to see how lucky I am to marry you." Chika jumped with joy. "Yes, let's call everyone, even the girls who laughed at me before." She started making a list. Then one of her friends said, "What about Ibuka? Should we invite him? Let him come and see what he missed." The other girls laughed. "Yes, let him come with his old shoes and dirty hands." Chika smiled. She liked the idea. "Yes," she said, "let him come. I want him to see what a queen he lost." She looked for his number, but it was not working. She found his name on social media and sent him a message. "Hello, Ibuka. I hope you are fine. I am getting married. I would love for you to attend the wedding. Don't worry, you don't have to bring a gift. Just come and watch." Then she added a line at the end. "I hope you can afford transport. Even if it is to serve drinks, you are welcome." She showed the message to her friends and they laughed. "You are wicked," Chika once said. "He will cry." Chika felt powerful. She had money, clothes, and now a wedding. She believed she had won. But far away in Lagos, Ibuka saw the message and did not laugh. He read it slowly. He remembered the mango tree, the way she laughed at him, and the promise he made. "One day, I will make you proud." He did not feel angry. He felt calm. He smiled, closed the message, and picked up his phone. He made a call and said, "Prepare the convoy. I have a wedding to attend." Ibuka stood in his office and looked at the car outside. It was shiny and black, with smooth lines and bright lights. That car was his dream made real. He had built it with his own hands, with his own mind, and with the help of his small but strong team. He smiled as he watched one of the drivers clean the side of the car. The boy used to sell water on the street, but now he wore a clean uniform and worked full-time at Emotion Motors. Ibuka felt happy. His dream was no longer a dream. It was real. It was working. And it was growing fast. Every week, more people called to ask for his cars. They wanted cars that did not need petrol, cars that could move fast, cars that were made in Nigeria. Ibuka and his team worked day and night to build more cars. They tested them on the roads. They fixed small problems. They added better batteries. Ibuka told them, "We must not rush. We must do it well. Our name must be strong." The workers nodded. They respected him because he was kind and smart. He did not shout. He showed them what to do. He gave them food, money, and care. He even paid for 2 boys to go to school so they could learn about machines. People started calling him Oga Ibuka, and that made him smile. One day, Ibuka got a call from a man in the government. The man said, "We saw your cars. We like them. Can you come and show us more?" Ibuka dressed in a clean white shirt and black trousers. He wore a watch that his friend in Dubai gave him. He went to the big office in a government building. There were many men in suits. Ibuka stood in front of them and showed pictures, papers, and a video of his car. He spoke slowly and clearly. He said, "This car is made for our roads. It does not need petrol. It uses a battery. It is strong. It is safe. It is made by Nigerians." The men clapped. One of them said, "We want 20 cars for our offices. Can you build them?" Ibuka said yes. That day, he signed his biggest deal. He walked out of the building and looked up at the sky. He whispered, "Thank you, God." His workers danced when he told them the news. Everyone was happy. They bought drinks and shared food. But Ibuka stayed quiet. He still remembered the small shop where he started. He still remembered the girl who laughed at him under the mango tree. He still remembered the words, "You will die under a broken car." He did not feel sad anymore. He felt strong. He felt ready. Soon more people started talking about Ibuka. Oh, a big newspaper wrote about him. A TV show called and asked him to come and talk. But Ibuka said no. He said, "Let my work speak. I do not need cameras." His workers liked that. They said, "Oga is humble." People in the street pointed when they saw his cars. Some said, "Is this made in Nigeria?" Others said, "This is the boy they laughed at. Look at him now." But Ibuka did not look back. He just worked. He kept building. He kept helping. One day he called his mother and said, "Mama, I want to buy you a house." His mother cried on the phone. She said, "My son, I am proud of you. May God bless you." Ibuka bought a small but nice house for her in a quiet place. He sent money every month. He never forgot her prayers. Even in the middle of his success, Ibuka did not forget the boys who worked with him. He gave them uniforms with their names on the front. He gave them lunch every day. He gave them hope. One boy Sunday said, "Oga, before I met you, I was sleeping in a bus stop. Now I have a bed." Ibuka smiled and said, "One day, you will have your own company too. Just work hard." Sunday nodded. He cleaned the cars with joy. The workshop became a happy place. People came from far to see it. Some brought cameras. Some brought business papers. One man from Ghana said, "We want your cars in our country too." Ibuka shook his hand and said, "Let's make it happen." Emotion Motors was no longer a small name. It was now growing across borders. But Ibuka kept his heart soft. He still prayed at night. He still read books. He still taught the boys how to fix wires and wheels. One Friday evening, Ibuka stood outside the workshop and watched the sun go down. The sky was orange and purple. The air was quiet. He thought about his journey, from the old shop in Umwoko to this big workshop in Lagos, from walking with a torn shoe to driving a brand new car he built himself. He thought about Chika. He had not seen her since the day she walked away. He had not spoken to her since the day she sent that message. But he remembered her words, and he remembered his promise. One day, I will make you proud. He smiled, not because he wanted her back, but because he kept his word. He became what he said he would become. He did it without hate. He did it without shame. The next morning, one of his workers brought him a brown envelope. "Oga, this came for you," the boy said. Ebuka opened it. Inside was a letter from the governor of another state. It said, "Dear Mr. Ebuka, we are pleased with your work. We invite you to speak at our event and showcase your cars. We want our young people to learn from your story." Ebuka felt proud. But something else came that day, too, a message on his phone. It was from a number he did not know. But when he opened it, his eyes stopped. It was a video from Umoko. The message said, "Watch this." He pressed play. It was a wedding invitation. He saw Chika's face. She was smiling in a white dress. She was sitting beside Richard. The video said, "Come celebrate with us. Chika and Richard are getting married." At the end, it showed the date, the time, and the location. Then, like a whisper from the past, he heard her voice. "Ebuka, I hope you can attend. Even if you don't have a gift, just come and watch." Ebuka did not move. He looked at the screen for a long time. Then he put the phone down. He walked to the door and looked at his cars. They were parked in a line, clean, big, beautiful. He walked to one of them and opened the door. He sat inside. The seat was soft. The engine was quiet. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he opened his eyes and smiled. He called his assistant and said, "Prepare the cars. Call the drivers. I am going to Umoko." The assistant asked, "Are we going for business?" Ebuka said, "No, we are going for a wedding." The sun was hot in Umoko, and the birds were singing on the trees. People in the town were busy talking about the big wedding. "Chika is getting married," they said. "It will be the biggest wedding in town." The women in the market were gossiping. "Her husband is rich," one said. "She will wear gold," another said. Chika was in her mother's house, sitting in front of a mirror. Her face was shining, her hair was long, and her hands had pretty rings. Her friends were around her, laughing and helping her choose the best shoes. One of them said, "Chika, you have done well for yourself. Look at you now. You are marrying a rich man." Chika smiled. "I told you people I will not suffer," she said. "God has done it for me." Her mother walked in and said, "My daughter, I am so proud of you. No more poor boy talk. Now you will eat good food and drive big cars." Everyone laughed and clapped. The room was full of joy. Later that day, Chika and her friends were sitting in the backyard drinking juice and talking about the wedding. One friend said, "We should invite your ex-boyfriend." "What's his name again? That mechanic boy?" Chika laughed. "Ebuka," she said. "Oh, that boy. He used to come here with grease on his hands." Another friend said, "Let him come and see what he missed. Let him see the girl he could not keep." They all laughed again. One of the girls said, "Let's find him and send an invite." Chika said, "Yes, that will be fun. He will sit at the back and watch me shine like a queen." She took her phone and opened an app. She searched for his name. She could not find him at first, but then she saw a picture. She clicked it. The picture was small and he was wearing a cap. She sent a message. "Hello, Ebuka. Long time. I'm getting married. You are invited to my wedding. I hope you can come. Even if you cannot bring a gift, Just come and watch." Then she added, "I hope you can afford the transport, or you can help serve food." She laughed as she sent the message. "That will teach him," she said. Her friends laughed and clapped. They called her Queen of Pepper. Chica felt proud. She believed Ibuka was still poor, still working in a dirty shop, still fixing broken cars. But far away in Lagos, Ibuka read the message and said nothing. He smiled and looked at the screen. Then he turned off his phone and stood up. He walked into his office and called his assistant. "We will go to Umoko for a wedding," he said. The assistant was surprised. "Is it your friend's wedding, sir?" Ibuka said. "Not a friend, but someone who once knew me." The assistant nodded. "Should we prepare the convoy, sir?" Ibuka looked outside at the black cars lined up neatly in the sun. They were clean, strong, and shiny. "Yes," he said. "Prepare the convoy. We will go in style." The workers were excited. They cleaned the cars again, made sure the tires were full, the seats were soft, and the air smelled fresh. They wore their white shirts and black trousers. They polished their shoes and got ready. Ibuka packed a simple black bag with one suit and one shoe. He did not carry too much. He was not going to show off. He was going to attend a wedding. But in his heart, he was ready to show what silence can build. The next morning, 5 black Rolls-Royce cars lined up in front of the office. Each car had a driver. Ibuka came out wearing a dark suit, clean glasses, and a watch. He looked calm and quiet. He entered the middle car, and the doors closed. The convoy moved slowly out of Lagos and began the journey to Umuoko. People on the road stopped to watch. Some waved. Some took pictures. Some asked, "Is that a governor?" But no one knew. Ibuka sat quietly, thinking about the past. He remembered the mango tree, the dusty roads, and the words that cut deep. He remembered walking with holes in his shoes. He remembered Chica's laughter when he begged her to wait. He remembered everything. But now the road was smooth and the cars were new. His life had changed, but his heart was still soft. Back in Umoko, the wedding hall was getting ready. The chairs were white and gold. The flowers were pink and yellow. The stage had Chica and Richard's names written in big letters. The cooks were making rice, chicken, and jollof. The drinks were cold. The music was loud. Chica arrived in a white dress with shiny beads. She looked beautiful. Her hair was packed high, and her necklace sparkled. Richard stood beside her, wearing a white suit and dark glasses. He smiled and waved at people. But deep inside, Richard was not smiling. His business was not doing well. He had borrowed money to make the wedding big. He had told lies to keep Chica happy. He did not want her to know that his shop had problems. But today was the wedding, and he had to smile. Guests filled the hall. People danced and sang. Chica sat like a queen, greeting everyone. Her friends came and whispered, "You look like a movie star." Chica smiled and said, "I told you." Then one of the girls came in, breathing fast. "Chica," she said, "come outside now." Chica looked at her. "Why?" The girl said, "Just come and see." Chica stood up and walked outside with her friends. What she saw made her heart stop. 5 black Rolls-Royces were driving slowly into the street. People on the road were shouting, "Who is that? Is it the governor?" The cars stopped in front of the hall. The doors opened, and out stepped Ibuka. He wore a dark blue suit. His shoes were black and shiny. His face was calm. He looked around and walked forward. His drivers followed behind him. The sun touched the cars and made them shine. People were quiet. Some started whispering, "Is that Ibuka?" One old man said, "I know that boy. He used to fix bikes." A woman said, "He now owns those cars?" Chica could not speak. Her mouth was open. Her hands were shaking. Her friends looked at her, then looked at Ibuka. "Is that your Ibuka?" one asked. Chica nodded slowly. Richard came outside and saw the cars. His face changed. He whispered, "I know this man. He owns E-Motion Motors. I once sent a letter to his company to ask for a partnership." Chica looked at him with wide eyes. "You know him?" Richard said. "He is a big man in Lagos. He is not poor." Ibuka walked into the hall and sat down in the front row. People greeted him with respect. Some even stood up. The MC asked, "Sir, do you want to say something?" Ibuka shook his head. "I came as a guest," he said. Chica was now sweating. She went back inside and sat beside Richard. Her smile was gone. Her heart was beating fast. The wedding that was supposed to make her look big was now making her feel small. She could not believe what she saw. The boy she laughed at. The boy she left behind. The boy she said would die under a broken car had come back in a convoy of Rolls-Royce cars. The music inside the wedding hall kept playing, but the sound felt far away to Chica. She sat beside Richard, but she could not feel her legs. Her hands were cold. Her heart was beating fast. She looked across the hall and saw Ibuka sitting quietly. He was not laughing. He was not talking. He just sat like a calm king. The lights inside the hall made his black suit shine. The guests around him looked surprised and confused. Some whispered to each other. Some took pictures of him with their phones. One old woman said, "I knew this boy. He used to ride bicycle. Look at him now." Another man said, "That is Ibuka. Are you sure? He looks like one of those big men from Abuja." Chica heard the whispers and her stomach turned. This was not the wedding she planned. This was not the day she dreamed of. She had wanted to shine. She had wanted Ibuka to come and feel small. But now she felt like the one who was small. Outside the hall, children were still looking at the black cars. The drivers stood by the cars in uniforms. People asked, "Whose convoy is this?" The children touched the cars and said, "It looks like a governor's car." One driver smiled and said, "No, it is not the governor. It is our Oga." Inside the hall, the ceremony began. The pastor came to the stage and prayed. He said many words, but Chica was not listening. Her mind was full of thoughts. She remembered the day she laughed at Ibuka. She remembered the mango tree. She remembered the old Ibuka who had holes in his shoes. Now that same Ibuka was sitting at her wedding, and everyone was looking at him. Richard was sweating too. He looked at Ibuka and then looked away. He leaned close to Chica and whispered, "We have a problem." Chica asked, "What problem?" Richard said, "That man, Ibuka, he owns E-Motion Motors. I have been trying to meet him for months. I sent letters to his company asking for a deal. If I knew he was your ex, I would have behaved differently." Chica's eyes widened. "You want business with him?" she asked. Richard nodded. "Yes, I'm in debt. I need his help. But now that he knows me and you are getting married, I don't think he will help me." Chica looked at the crowd. People were clapping and dancing, but she saw how their eyes kept turning to Ibuka. He did not smile or dance. He just clapped politely and nodded when people greeted him. The MC walked up and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the couple of the day, Chica and Richard." People clapped. Chica stood up slowly. She tried to smile, but it looked fake. She held Richard's hand and they walked to the front. The MC made jokes. People laughed. The cameraman took pictures. But deep in Chica's heart, there was no joy. Then the MC said, "Now we will call on a special guest to give a short speech. Please, let's welcome our honorable guest, Mr. Ibuka, CEO of E-Motion Motors." The hall became very quiet. All eyes turned to Ibuka. Chica froze. Richard held his breath. Ibuka stood up slowly and walked to the stage. His steps were calm. His face was serious. Ibuka took the microphone. He looked at the crowd. He looked at the couple. Then he smiled a small smile. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said. "Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I came because I was invited by someone I once knew. I came to show respect, not to cause trouble." He paused and looked at Chica. Then he continued. "Many years ago, I lived in this town. I was poor. I worked in a car shop. I had dreams, but no money. I had ideas, but no help. People laughed at me. They said I would fail. But I worked hard. I left this town and went to the city. I met people who believed in me. I learned. I failed. I cried. But I never gave up. Today, I run a company that builds cars for Africa. My story is not about showing off. My story is about believing in yourself when no one else does." The hall was very quiet. No one moved. Some people were wiping tears from their eyes. Ibuka looked at Chica and said, "To the bride, thank you. You once told me I would die under a broken car. Those words stayed in my heart. They gave me fire. They made me work harder. I do not hate you. In fact, I thank you. Because of you, I found my way." Then he looked at Richard and said, "To the groom, I wish you well. Marriage is not a small thing. I hope you treat her well." Richard nodded slowly. He could not speak. Then Ibuka turned to the crowd. "To the young people here," he said, "dreams are not small. Do not let anyone laugh at you. Work hard. Stay kind. Your time will come." Everyone clapped. The sound filled the hall. Ibuka gave the microphone back to the MC and walked back to his seat. People stood up and clapped for him. Chica could not hold it anymore. Tears came out of her eyes. She picked up her white cloth and wiped her face. Her makeup was smudged. Her heart was heavy. She could not understand how the poor boy she left had become the star of her wedding. Richard sat quietly beside her, his hands shaking. He knew he was not the richest man in the room anymore. The rest of the wedding felt strange. People still ate and danced, but the attention was no longer on Chica and Richard. Everyone wanted to take pictures with Ibuka. The cooks brought him special food. The elders came to shake his hand. The children ran around him, touching his shoes and asking for money. Ibuka smiled and gave them small notes. But Chica sat still. Her friends did not laugh anymore. One of them whispered, "Chica, this is not how we planned it." Chica nodded. Her mother came and asked, "Are you okay?" Chica said, "I don't know." When the party was over, Ibuka stood up and walked outside. His drivers opened the car door. He looked back one last time, then entered the car. The convoy moved slowly away. The crowd followed him with their eyes. Some waved, some stood in silence, and Chica sat on the stage watching the cars disappear. The next day after the wedding, the whole town of Umoko was still talking about Ibuka. People in the market were saying, "Did you see the cars he came with?" Others said, "He has changed. He is now a big man." Children were running around pretending to drive Rolls-Royce cars. Even the old men at the junction said, "That boy is now a lion. We laughed at him, but he made it." But Chica did not feel like talking. She stayed in her room, sitting on the bed with her head down. Her wedding dress was still hanging on the door, but she did not want to look at it. Her heart was full of shame. She remembered how she had invited Ibuka to disgrace him. But it was her who ended up feeling small. She had tried to make fun of him, but he came like a king. He sat in the front, gave a kind speech, and left without saying one bad word. That night, she did not sleep. She kept thinking, why did I let him go? Why did I laugh at him? Why did I not believe in his dream? In the sitting room, Richard was also quiet. He sat on the couch, staring at the wall. He had not eaten anything since the wedding. He was thinking about what Ibuka had said. He was also thinking about the business trouble he was hiding from Chica. He had borrowed money from people in the city. He had promised to pay them back after the wedding. He thought he would get help from a big car company. That is why he was trying to meet Emotion Motors. But now he knew that the boss of that company was Chica's ex-boyfriend. He felt afraid. What if Ibuka refuses to work with me because of Chica, he thought. He looked at Chica and asked, "Do you think Ibuka will help me if I talk to him?" Chica did not answer. She just looked at the floor. Richard said, "I'm asking because I really need that deal. If he agrees, my business can survive. If he says no, I don't know what will happen." Chica stood up and walked to the window. She looked outside but did not see anything. Her eyes were full of water. She whispered, "I don't know." Richard said, "I thought he would be small. I thought he was still poor. Why didn't you tell me he had become rich?" Chica turned and said, "I didn't know. I left him when he was still fixing cars. I never heard from him again." Richard stood up too. He said, "We must find a way to talk to him. You know him better than me. Maybe you can call him and ask for a meeting." Chica shook her head. "I don't think I can," she said. "After what I did, after the way I treated him, I don't know if he will want to see me." But Richard begged. He said, "Please, just try. And this is very important." The next day, Chica picked up her phone. Her hand was shaking. She typed a message to Ibuka. "Hello," she wrote. "Thank you for coming to the wedding. You look great. I am sorry for how things ended between us. I hope we can talk." She sent the message and waited. 1 hour passed. 2 hours passed. No reply. Her heart began to beat fast. She kept checking the phone. Later in the evening, her phone beeped. She opened it quickly. Ibuka had replied. He wrote, "Hello, Chica. I have nothing against you. I came to show respect, not to make anyone feel small. If you want to talk, I will be in town tomorrow. You can meet me at the new hotel near the roundabout." Chica read the message 3 times. Then she showed it to Richard. Richard said, "Good. We must go there. We must not waste this chance." The next morning, Chica and Richard got dressed and went to the hotel. It was a new place, very clean, with flowers and shiny floors. They sat in the waiting area until a man came and said, "Mr. Ibuka is ready to see you now." They followed him to a small room. Ibuka was sitting on a chair, reading something on his tablet. He looked up and said, "Good morning." Richard greeted him and tried to smile. Chica said, "Thank you for seeing us." Ibuka nodded. "Please sit," he said. They sat down. There was silence for a moment. Then Richard said, "I will go straight to the point. I run a transport company. We want to buy electric cars for our drivers. We are looking for a partnership with a local car company. I believe your company is the best. That's why I'm here." Ibuka listened without saying a word. When Richard finished, Ibuka asked, "How many cars do you want to buy?" Richard said, 50 to start with, then more later." Ibuka said, "Do you have the money ready?" Richard looked down and said, "Not yet. We were hoping for a payment plan, maybe monthly or quarterly." Ibuka was quiet for a while. Then he looked at Chica. "Is this why you messaged me?" he asked. Chica looked ashamed. She said, "I just wanted to say sorry first. I know I hurt you. I laughed at you. I left you. I was wrong. I did not know you would become great. I did not believe in you, and I am sorry." Ibuka nodded slowly. "Thank you," he said. "That means a lot." Richard added, "We really need your help. We want to work with you." Ibuka thought for a moment, then he said, "I will think about it. I will check your company records and see if you qualify. If you do, we can talk more. But I will not do business with anyone because of pity or guilt. I only work with people who are honest and serious." Richard said, "I understand." Ibuka stood up and shook their hands. "Thank you for coming," he said. Chica and Richard walked out quietly. On the way home, Richard said, "I think he will help us." But Chica did not speak. Her mind was full of thoughts. She still could not believe the man she once left behind now had the power to decide her future. Later that week, the news spread that Ebuka had bought the wedding hall where Chica got married. People were shocked. They said, "What? He owns that place?" Others said, "He just bought it last month." When Chica heard the news, she felt cold. "So I got married in a hall owned by my ex-boyfriend," she whispered. She felt a deep pain in her heart. She told her mother, and her mother said, "Life is funny. The stone they threw away is now the head of the house." Chica could not sleep that night. She stared at the ceiling and asked herself many questions. She thought about Ebuka's quiet smile. She thought about his big cars and clean suit. She thought about how kind he was, even after all she did to him. She said, "He did not even try to make me feel bad. He just stood there and looked like a king." The next day, Chica wrote another message to Ebuka. "Please can I see you alone?" she wrote. "Just me, not Richard." Ebuka replied, "Okay. Meet me at the mango tree." That mango tree still stood in Umwoko, old and tall with wide leaves. It was where they used to sit and talk when they were younger. When Chica got there, Ebuka was already waiting. He leaned on the tree, looking at the ground. She walked slowly to him and said, "Thank you for coming." Ebuka said, "This place brings back memories." Chica nodded. "I came to tell you the truth," she said. "I thought I was smart when I left you. I thought money was all I needed. But I see now that I was wrong. You had nothing, but you had a big heart. You had a dream, and I threw it away." Ebuka looked at her. "Chica," he said, "you did what you thought was best. I don't hate you. In fact, I thank you. Because of you, I worked harder. I became stronger." Chica said, "Do you still feel anything for me?" Ebuka smiled. "No," he said. "I respect our past, but I've moved on. My heart is not in the past anymore." Chica wiped her eyes. "I understand," she said. "I just wanted to hear it from you." Ebuka looked at the tree and said, "We used to sit here and talk about the future. Now that future is here." Chica nodded. "And it belongs to you," she said. Ebuka said, "We all get what we choose. You chose your path. I chose mine. I wish you peace." Then he turned and walked away, his steps strong and sure. Chica stood alone under the tree, her tears falling quietly. She knew in that moment that she had lost something she could never get back. Many days passed after Chica met Ebuka at the mango tree. She stayed quiet in the house. She did not go out much. She did not laugh with her friends like before. Even when people came to visit, she just smiled small and said nothing. Her heart was heavy. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ebuka's face. Every time she walked by the road, she saw the place where his big cars had stopped. One morning, her mother came into her room and asked, "Chica, why are you not happy? You are married now. You have a nice house. What is wrong?" Chica looked at her mother and said, "Mama, I am not happy. I made a mistake. I did not see Ebuka's heart. I only looked at his pocket." Her mother sat beside her and said, "But my daughter, you chose a man with money. That is what we wanted for you." Chica shook her head slowly. "Yes, Mama. But I married money and lost peace. I thought Ebuka was a poor boy with nothing. But now I know he had everything I truly needed." That same day, as Chica sat in the backyard, one of her old friends came to visit. Her name was Ada. Ada sat beside her and said, "Chica, have you heard the latest news?" Chica asked, "What is it?" Ada looked around and said, "Do you remember the wedding hall where you got married? Do you know who owns it now?" Chica shook her head. Ada smiled and said, "Ebuka. He bought the hall. He is the new owner." Chica's mouth opened. "What? When did he buy it?" Ada said. Last month. He bought the land and everything. They say he even paid cash. Now the hall belongs to him. Chica felt her chest grow tight. So my wedding was held in his property, she asked. Ada nodded. Yes. And he didn't say a word about it. He just sat there and let you enjoy your day. Chica stood up and held her head. She walked around in a circle. How can this be? She whispered. Everything I thought I won was not really mine. At night, she told Richard. He was shocked too. So he owns the hall? Richard asked. Chica nodded. Richard sat on the bed and held his head. This man has more power than we thought. We cannot joke with him. Chica looked at Richard and asked, Are you still waiting for him to help your business? Richard looked away and said, I sent him a message. He has not replied yet. Chica sighed. I don't think he will help, she said. He came to the wedding. He said nice words. He forgave us. But his silence now means he is done with us. Richard stood up. We need to go and see him again, he said. One last time. I need that deal to keep my company alive. The next day, Richard went alone to Lagos. He tried to call Ibuka, but got no answer. He went to the office of E-Motion Motors. The place was big and clean. There were workers in uniforms moving from one place to another. Richard told the front desk lady that he wanted to see the CEO. She said, Do you have an appointment? Richard said, No, but tell him it's Richard from Umwoko. The lady made a call. Then she said, You can wait. He will see you. Richard sat down looking around the office. He saw big pictures of Ibuka's cars. He saw awards and medals on the wall. He shook his head and said, This is what Chica left behind. After some minutes, the secretary came and said, Follow me. Richard followed her to a meeting room. Ibuka was already there, sitting at the table. He looked up and said, Hello, Richard. Richard said, Thank you for seeing me again. Ibuka nodded. What can I do for you? He asked. Richard said, Please, I need your help. My transport company is going down. I need your cars. I need a payment plan. I will not lie, I'm in trouble. I know we have a past, but I'm begging you as a man. Ibuka looked at him for a while. Then he said, I will help you. Richard was shocked. You will? He asked. Ibuka nodded. Yes, but not because of Chica. I will help you because I believe in building others. I was helped once. Now I help others. Richard stood up and shook Ibuka's hand. Thank you, thank you, thank you, he said again and again. Back in Umoko, Chica was sitting outside when she saw a small boy running towards her. The boy shouted, Auntie Chica, your husband is coming back. He's smiling. Chica stood up and looked down the road. Richard's car stopped in front of the house. He came out with a big smile. Chica ran to him and asked, What happened? Richard said, Ibuka said yes. He will help my business. Chica held her chest. He said yes? She asked. Even after all we did? Richard said, Yes. He said he wants to lift others, not bring them down. Chica sat on the step and began to cry. Why is he so kind? She asked. Even after I hurt him? Richard said, He is bigger than pain. He is now living in peace. That night, Chica could not sleep. She kept thinking about everything. She thought about the poor boy she once mocked. She thought about the man he had become. She thought about her wedding, her words, her laughter, and her pride. And she thought about how Ibuka never shouted, never insulted her, never looked down on her. He just stood tall, walked in, and walked out like a king. The next morning, Chica wrote in her diary, Ibuka, she wrote, you are no longer the boy I left. You are the man I now respect. I do not want your money. I do not want your love. I just want to say thank you for showing me what true greatness looks like. Time moved fast. 1 month passed, then 2, then 3. The wedding became old news. People in Umoko started talking about other things, but the story of Ibuka never left their mouths. Everyone who saw him that day remembered how he came with quiet power. Children still played on the road and said, "I am Ibuka," while pretending to drive big cars. Old men sat under the tree and told young boys, "Never laugh at someone who is trying. That boy you laugh at today can become a king tomorrow." Some people felt proud that Ibuka came from their town. Others felt sorry that they once looked down on him. But Ibuka did not return to Umoko again. He stayed in Lagos, working hard and building more cars. His company grew bigger. More people joined his team. He started teaching young boys and girls how to build cars, too. He opened a school for children who wanted to learn about engines and batteries. He gave free classes and even gave some children scholarships. Ibuka remembered how he started. He remembered how it felt to be hungry and dirty and laughed at. That is why he helped others so they wouldn't feel the same pain. Chika's life was quiet now. She no longer posted pictures online. She no longer wore loud makeup or showed off her dresses. She still lived with Richard, but the house felt different. Rich's business was getting better because of Ibuka's help, but Chika's heart still felt heavy. She smiled outside, but inside she felt a hole. Every time she saw Richard happy about a new car or a new customer, she would think, "This came from Ibuka's hand. This came from the same man I left." But she never told anyone how she truly felt. She just kept it inside. One day, Chika was walking through the market when a small girl stopped her. The girl said, "Auntie, are you the lady who was in that wedding with the big man and the big cars?" Chika smiled a little and nodded. The girl said, "I want to be like him one day. I want to build something big and help people." Chika touched the girl's head and said, "Then don't laugh at anyone. Work hard and believe in yourself." In Lagos, Ibuka was invited to many events. People wanted him to speak. They wanted to hear his story. But he did not like too much noise, he said. "Let the cars speak. Let the work speak." Still, one day he agreed to speak at a big event. It was an award show for young inventors. Many people came. There were lights, cameras, and reporters. When it was Ibuka's turn, he walked to the stage in a simple black suit. He looked around the hall and said, "Good evening." Everyone clapped. He began to speak. "My name is Ibuka. I am a simple man who had big dreams. I started with nothing. I had oil on my clothes. I had holes in my shoes. But I had hope. I had a dream to build something useful for Africa. People laughed at me. People left me. But I did not stop. I worked, I learned, and now I am here. Not because I am the smartest, not because I am the best, but because I refused to give up." The room was quiet. Everyone was listening. Then Ibuka said, "Some of you are maybe going through pain. Maybe people do not believe in you. Maybe they tell you that your dream is too big. Maybe someone you love does not see your value. Do not let that stop you. Use it. Use the pain to grow. Let the laughter push you. Let the tears teach you. One day you will look back and say, 'Thank you for not believing in me, because your doubt gave me the fire I needed.'" The crowd stood up and clapped. Some people had tears in their eyes. Ibuka walked off the stage and sat quietly while the rest of the event went on. After the show, a news reporter came to him and asked, "Sir, what made you keep going when everyone laughed at you?" Ibuka smiled and said, "One girl laughed at me a long time ago. She told me I would die under a broken car. I wanted to prove her wrong, not with anger, but with success. Now I don't want him to prove anything anymore. I just want to build, help others, and live in peace." The next day, that quote was in the newspaper. The title read, "The Man They Laughed At." Under it was a picture of Ibuka standing beside his cars with a soft smile on his face. When Chika saw the newspaper, she sat on her bed and stared at the photo. She read the words again and again. Her eyes were wet, but she did not cry. She just whispered, "He did it. He really did it." Richard came in and said, "Chika, are you okay?" Chika smiled weakly and said, "Yes, I am okay. I am just thinking about life." She folded the newspaper and kept it in her drawer. That night, she wrote in her diary again. "Dear Ibuka," she wrote, "you are no longer a dreamer with dirty hands. You are the builder of dreams. You did not shout. You did not fight. You rose like the morning sun. And now the world sees your light. I am proud of you, even if I can never tell you that face to face." And far away, Ibuka stood in his quiet office looking out of the window. His team was working. His cars were ready. His dream was alive. He looked up at the sky and smiled. Then he whispered, "Thank you, God. I did not fight back. I just kept walking, and now I am finally free."